everyone. Thank you for being here today. I'm going to share with you the story of how I found my path in the demanding world of equestrian sports. It's a story about starting late, navigating setbacks, and showing that there's no single way to reach your goals. Success, I believe, doesn't come from following someone else's journey. It comes from embracing your own, no matter how unconventional. So growing up, I was an adventure seeker. I loved nature, I loved animals, and I just wanted to spend all my time with them. Whilst most of my now competitors were already competing at junior pony championships, I was, from age 4, riding away in the Atlas Mountains on muleback. And I just loved it, and it was my passion before I ever knew I'd be riding for sports. I always had in the back of my mind this idea that I wanted to become a professional rider, but let's be honest, I lived in a city, I didn't know anyone in the professional riding world, and I didn't know how to get there. So I thought I'd need a classical job to be able to find my passion. A few years fast forward, after my high school, I took a gap year and I went to the French National Horse Riding School in Saumur, just because I wanted to deepen my understanding of horses. And spoiler alert, no one told me it was a military institution, so it was a bit of a shock to my system, but I absolutely loved it. That year taught me a lot about structure, about discipline, and about horsemanship, and I believe it's been a great framework for my success. After that, I wanted to become a riding instructor because I loved it so much, but I had an acceptancy at the University of Warwick to study politics and international relations, and I believed maybe I needed a plan B in case horses didn't work. And also, my parents were not going to let me skip that, but that's a completely different story. So here I went to Warwick, and I brought a horse with me from France that I kept at the local riding school, just because I couldn't imagine my life without riding. I started university, absolutely loved it, went to my lectures, skipped a few, and went partying, made friends, but my mind was always at the art. The only thing I could think about was horses, horses, horses. Turned out Warwick was really the place to be for eventing in the West Midlands. Everywhere I looked, there were horse riders, there were events, and there was this discipline that I heard about, which was called eventing. So eventing is a triathlon of equestrian sports, and with the same horse you do dressage, cross-country, which is rustic natural fences, and show jumping. And so that really captured my attention straight away, because it gathered everything I loved about horses, which is versatility, partnership, and adrenaline. So I didn't really know how or where to start it, so I took on 2 jobs at local event professional yards to see how professionals did it, how they run their business, how they produced horses. And so it was a hectic time for me, very tight schedule. So whilst most of my friends, they were coming home after a lecture or a night out, I would do my after parties at the yard. That showed a lot of commitment for horse riding, but also for partying. When I graduated, I was at 21, and I thought, you know what, I want to do this full time, I love it, I want to give it a go, and I want to do it well. The challenge was, I was really starting at the very, very low level. I would see the other people, they were already competing, they were doing so well. I was not. The first few events I did, I used to get elimination after elimination. And I realized something, I couldn't compare myself to others. I had to use them as an inspiration to draw my own path. And it's around that time that I began to find my place in eventing. I began to find the right trainer, go to the right competitions. And that's where I met my coach, Deborah Felus, and together we had this big, crazy goal to get to the Olympics. So I was a young rider, I didn't have much backing, but we still went and pitched our projects to some investors. We said, okay, we have 5 years, let's get there. They believed in us, but we still had a very limited budget. We invested into young horses to get to a championship. Amongst those horses is my horse Cash in Hand, which was 5 at the time, and that I took to the Olympics. Riding young horses taught me a lot about patience, about not burning any bridges, and about building strong foundations. And it's been key because when you start late, you still need to take your time. We were able to gather a great team around us, because you see me as the giant visible part of an iceberg, but it takes a whole village to make it happen. So we had vets, we had physio, we had an amazing farrier, and for the funny story, Cash is the only horse at the Olympics that ever competed with glue-on shoes instead of metal shoes. And that was thanks to my support team that we were able to get there. So another very important lesson I learned is you need to surround yourself with the right people, and you need to draw on their knowledge to boost your journey. So fast forward 5 years later, we really battled to get our qualifications, and there were only 2 spots for Africa and Middle East. When you work with an animal, it's very hard to make it all happen, to align all the planets. So one time the horse is going to be a bit tired, you're not going to perform well, you're going to make mistakes, but we had planned all that. And with Deborah, we had a really clear plan, and we managed to get there. So 1 month before the Olympics, I thought, okay, what can go wrong? I just need to focus on my riding, I need to focus on getting there. I should have known better. So 1 month before getting there, I go to a training show with a young horse, I fall off. Catastrophe. I feel my collarbone, I can see that it's broken in 2. But I think, there's a few riders that have managed to get there with a broken collarbone. I should be fine. I go to the hospital, then they tell me what was heartbreaking for me is that I broke my back, my L3 vertebrae. And then I think that's the worst that could happen. My mom, age 32, she had a very bad accident. She became paraplegic after breaking her back. So it kind of sent me back to that. It sent me to a very dark place where it wasn't anymore about the Olympics. It was more about me doubting myself, doubting my future as a rider. And, doubt started creeping in. Will I ever make it back into the sport? Will I ever do anything? So emergency surgery followed. I had a plate in my collarbone and cement in my back. And I got very lucky to be surrounded by my family, by my coach, who has been amazing, and by a team of expert therapists. So before I could even walk, I started doing 3 hours therapy a day to get my mindset where it had to be. And I realized that, when you feel at your lowest, you need to draw onto your own strength to get out of it. And that's what I did. I broke things into very small, achievable goals. So one day it was getting up from my bed. The other day it was starting to walk, and eventually climbing back onto my horse 2 days before the Olympics. Every one of these goals felt like a mountain to climb up at that time. And I also realized that in moments of doubt, you need to rely on people that are around you. That when your own reserves, they feel completely empty, you have to draw on other people's to get there, to get back on your horse. So that's what I did, and I learned the importance of visualization. So every day I would call my coach, and we would visualize myself at the Olympics, on my horse, doing, my dressage test, crossing the finish line, hearing the cheer, and that allowed me to look at the much bigger picture and to visualize myself at the Olympics. So 2 days before, I managed to get there. It was very, very emotional for me, getting back on my horse. But I still wasn't sure whether the pain was not gonna be too much to handle, because when you go cross country, you have to jump drops and then go up steps, and it's very physical. So when we walked across country, we had a plan A, B, C, D, and I didn't know at which moment my body would give up. Once I got on my horse, everything just kind of faded. Everything went into some kind of background noise, and I was able to really focus on the task at hand. And I had the best time of my life. On that cross country, I just forgot about everything I had been through, and I just rode my horse like it was any other event, just on the world stage. And crossing that finish line was just, the culmination of years of perseverance and weeks of hardship. But that was totally worth it. So to conclude my talk, I just want to tell you that even if sometimes you feel like you're left behind, you feel like your dreams are out of reach, I hope this talk showed you that being on your own timeline, it doesn't mean being off track. It means creating your own path. So as for me, I'm only 13. I feel like I'm at the start of my career. I have learned so much from this experience at the Olympic, and I'm just eager to do more and to get to the LA 2028 Olympics. I'm sure it will be on my own timeline, but I can't wait for it. Thank you very much.